welcome back to the Enlasombra podcast. Alexis, it is so good to be back.
I know, I feel like it's been a minute.
Oh, it's been so long, and so much has happened since the last time you and I have sat down here.
It's true.
So we could not be more excited to share today with you. Today we're going to talk all about just what God has been doing in our lives the past few months. There has been a lot that has happened.
A lot of life.
Yeah, but before we jump into that, why don't we share kind of like what we've been up to recently, any life updates? Do you want to go
100%.
first, Lex?
Yes, yeah, I'll love to share. I remember probably a few podcasts ago, I was sharing we were making a decision as a family on whether or not we were going to send our oldest Reagan back to public school or if we were going to homeschool. Mm-hmm. And we felt really called last spring to put her back into public school. And it did feel like I heard him clearly, but still needed to act in faith when I sent her. So we sent her back to school. She is thriving. It is so cool to see how God had prepared so many blessings for her along the way, even like her teacher. Mm-hmm. We had no say in who her teacher was. We had no idea who they were. And the teacher she got was actually a really close family friend of our pastor that we go to church.
So crazy. Can you imagine?
They grew up together. I think her name was named after our pastor's mom. That is how close they are.
Like, how does that happen?
She's a really sweet, kind teacher. And you could not ask for a better environment to come from homeschool back to public school. So God has been really good and faithful. Reagan's been enjoying it. We have little Nora, who is 3.5. She gets to be my little buddy at home. It's been so fun just hanging out with her, getting to know her alone. That has been really sweet. And then the last real update is that Ryan had a new job. And if a lot of people maybe knew our story, he had gone through a really hard career transition, and God provided in the most remarkable ways. That's a whole nother story, but he's loving his job and the people he works with, his team, and it's such a blessing. And so just to see how much God has gone before our family has been really sweet this last season.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my update. I'm sure you'll hear more updates as I share later on.
For sure.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing, Lex.
Of course. Yeah. Tell us how you've been, Julia, because the last time we did the podcast, it was with my mom. We were doing the book study with A.W. Tozer.
Yeah, which I loved following along, by the way.
Thank you.
In a different state, but I was all for it.
Yes, but you were gone because she was giving birth and enjoying motherhood for her first daughter. So Julia, tell us how that's been and how you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so since the last time we sat here, I gave birth to my little girl named Angelina Marie. She's now 7 months, which is actually insane
to
think, because I feel like just yesterday I was in the hospital recovering. And but it's been such a joy the past 7 months to just grow. I always say, like, I am a totally different woman 7 months ago to now. And I'm really grateful to God for it. I feel like it's been a transformative experience. God has shown me so much, and it's been such a time of like true dependence on God. And Landon and I have relied on one another in new ways, and have just been so surprised by joy in this season. The good, the hard, and the beautiful. We have just been so deeply formed by it. And so that's been really cool. But I would say like I'm a different woman in the sense like my food preferences have changed. Like how I view a 24-hour time span has totally changed. I would like much rather stay home than like go out nowadays, which if you knew me is completely opposite of who I was before. But just spending time with Angelina and seeing her grow into the little girl she is has been the best the last few months. So, and that's been me.
You want to share just a little bit about the role you've been playing at church?
Yeah, I would love to. That's a huge answer to prayer. I'm not sure, other than God, how you explain it, but in the state that I live in, I'm connected to a really great local church there, and I'm able to speak into like the women's ministry and get to help lead a women's Bible study, which has been honestly so fulfilling and encouraging as I'm in a different state, just building community where you're mutually pointing each other to Christ and like making jokes with one another and giving each other tips. That has been such like just a blessing.
It's huge, especially having to replant yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, like, I love hosting in my house. And so that's been a huge thing.
Yeah.
When I go back, I can look forward to like, okay, what can I host in my home?
Yes. That's so fun.
Yeah, that's been fun.
So special. I love that, Julia.
Just fun things.
Yeah, lots of newness in your life.
Yeah, a lot of newness. Season. I would say a lot of like humility, like learning.
Motherhood would do that for you.
Respect for moms.
Yes.
Yes. I remember
respect for our mom specifically. Yes.
Our mom, and also like I remember soon after I gave birth, like wanting to hug every single mom that I saw on the street and just like applaud them because I think moms are wonderful.
Yeah,
so
they're so strong.
Yeah, I love it.
Wow. Well, today, Julia, we're like you said, we're going to be talking about lessons learned. I like to say, and I think we're going to focus a little bit like on the fall, perhaps, on like what God has been teaching us.
Yeah.
So, do you mind if I share what God's been teaching?
You start.
Okay. So like I said, lessons learned, sometimes lessons learned the easy way, sometimes lessons learned the hard way. But I'm just so grateful, one, that God is a God who takes time to teach us, takes time to guide us, and love on us through every season of our lives.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share a little bit about my fall. My fall was fascinating. Only a few people in my life really actually know how my fall has been. And I would describe it as a season of sadness at times, grief. And I think the best way to say it is like I felt, probably for the first time in my life, really felt in touch with my humanity. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I'm saying I was in touch with my limitations and my shortcomings and my lack. Mm-hmm. And that was really a humbling place to be. When you can clearly see your shortcomings or clearly see your limitations as a human. Sometimes we forget, you know, and it was very clear to me, man, I'm so human right now. But what I've seen God do, Julia, in that season where I was feeling my humanity is that God met me in my humanity. And it's something that he's done for all of life's beginning.
Eternity.
He has done this from time and time again. We see it in the Bible, how he meets every single person in their humanity. That has given me so much hope for my future and hope for all of us, because you see, even with Adam and Eve, the moment where things went from perfect to full of shame and sin, and they were very met with their lack and their limitations and their shame. Yet God met them in that place and he covered them. And I have just taken so much to that story because God, that is the God we serve. Yeah. He's a God who meets us in our humanity. He doesn't wait till we're perfect. He doesn't wait till we got things figured out. Yeah. He meets us when we don't have things figured out and we're a mess. Yeah. But there was not a single day, how I would describe my fall, there's a specific month, maybe a month and a half, where there was not one single day that I was not crying. And it's not just like pity cries where I'm like, oh, I'm sad, or like something bothered me. It was like deeply seated sadness that kind of came to the surface. And I wept every single day and didn't know what the answer was, didn't have a resolution, didn't have a solution at all. And that was a really scary place to be. But in those times when I was alone crying out to God, it was so fascinating because I was so desperate to hear him, like his voice to me. Like I wanted to hear a specific answer. I wanted him to solve my problem so badly. I wanted to obey him, but I couldn't hear him. And it was just fascinating to me because what I couldn't hear, I could feel. I felt his presence in my grief, in my sadness. And something that I discovered about God, or just maybe remembered about him, is that God is a God who takes us through grief. He holds us within it. He doesn't take it away from us because he knows that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all.
To be able to grieve.
It's a gift in the sense that we can process it with him
Yeah.
and be honest with him. So he was really the only person I could be truly, truly honest with. But I would cry out to him. And again, I was waiting to hear his voice, yet he did not speak at all. All I could feel was his comfort and him being there. And it reminded me so much of, like, you know, when you hear so many times when people are grieving that it's better just to be with them. Like, don't desert them. Be with them. Let your presence be known to them. Don't necessarily try to fix them. Don't try to say some wise thing to them. Let them grieve, but be present for them. That's exactly what God was to me this fall, and especially that month and a half where I was crying every day. He was there, and I just love that he let me be in that spot and to healthily grieve and process what I needed to. And then there was a day where obviously I had no more tears to cry. And those days were almost sometimes harder because I still didn't have an answer. And I wish I could cry it out. I just didn't have anything to say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of hard, but it wasn't until a specific month this fall that I was surprised by something, that God had given me a gift that was unforeseen, unplanned. It was truly a gift from him. And our family was given the gift of a new baby. And we cannot wait to meet her.
So exciting.
Yes, we cannot wait to meet her. She is a very, very special gift to us and came at a time that was really, really needed. And it was interesting because, like I said, I had been dying to hear a word from God. But I remember finding out the day I was pregnant. My husband was at work. My daughter was at school. So it was just me and Nora. And I found out that I was pregnant. And I was like, just in shock. I would say the first feeling I felt was shock.
Yeah.
And just like, wow, utter surprise. And I remember sitting there on the floor, just like thinking, deep in thought. And I heard God say, her name is Ruth. That is the first thing I had heard in months from God.
That's amazing.
An actual word from the Lord that I felt like stirred in my spirit. Her name is Ruth. Now, at the time, I had no idea if it was a girl or a boy. I didn't know if that was God's voice or not, but I really felt in my spirit that it was. So I kind of held that for a while. I also didn't know, maybe God's pointing me to the story of Ruth. So I remember in that season, I started looking more into the story of Ruth. And what I found, wow, it is such a profound story. It was a gift that God had given me, that story and that reminder of her life. But like I said, Julia, we did find out that it is a girl and her name is Ruth, just like God said.
Cool.
And so it just felt like, oh my gosh, I felt like this huge like relief. Like we all just like took a big like sigh of relief together. And we're just so excited that we have 3 beautiful girls.
Yeah.
One coming this summer. And I just wanted to share, Julia, from my gleanings from Ruth and reading Ruth and just being reminded of those themes that we can see in her life. So I wanted to share a few of those. So like many of you know, Ruth and Naomi were experiencing inexpressible loss. They lost their husbands, and in that time, they lost their providers. They lost all sense of comfort, all sense of provision, just taken in their deaths. And Naomi had offered a choice to Ruth. Ruth could have gone, find another husband who could provide for her, have another beautiful life. Sounds so fantastic.
Yeah.
However, Ruth said no to that offer. And she said, I'm going to cling to you. Where you go, I will go. And she decided, I'm going to stay loyal and faithful to you, Naomi. Despite our discomfort, despite our lack of provision, we'll figure it out. But I'm going with you. I love that she chose to remain loyal and faithful. Ruth and Naomi grieved. What I saw, they grieved. There was a period there where it was sad and there was immense grief. However, amidst their grief, they still obeyed and they still remained faithful. And Ruth was described as hardworking, someone who was willing to do whatever it took to provide for Naomi at the time. She was willing to go out into the fields and glean whatever she could. That is being really faithful in a time where life probably really sucked. It really probably sucked for her. And I can just like feel that pain. However, it's just so encouraging to see Ruth be able to go out and still remain obedient.
Yeah.
And then we see the theme of redemption. God's story was not over for them. Boaz is a man who was their near redeemer. It was a redeemer in their family who could buy land and could marry a woman in that family to kind of alleviate the burden on that family. So Boaz was, in this, now that after Christ has come, we see that there are many parallels to Boaz and Jesus in the sense that they are both came to redeem, to protect, to provide, and to love. And so Boaz came and redeemed a very sad situation, brought so much more love and laughter into Ruth and Naomi's life. Ruth became pregnant with a son named Obed. And I didn't know this. It was a good reminder to me that Ruth is the great grandmother of King David.
No way.
Yes.
That is so cool.
So Obed is the parent of Jesse, and Jesse, David. And then, even better, she's in the lineage of Jesus Christ himself.
Can you imagine?
God's plan was not over. And so I would say one thing that I've taken away, I mean, many obviously, but that God has authorship over our life. And we do have a choice to be an author in our life. We do have a choice to take the reins. And my encouragement to you is don't do that. It's so easy to choose certain scenarios that seem better. Choose obedience to Christ. Choose him as the author of your life because you have no idea the blessings that he has in store or what he wants to speak over you. And I'll just end on this verse, Julia, that it reminded me of Colossians 1:17, where it says, God is before all things, and in him all things hold together. All things hold together. He's sovereign over all of our comings and our goings. When things feel like they're falling apart, he's still sovereign. He still has a plan that he's working and weaving together. We just have to remain faithful and obedient. And yes, it's okay to grieve. Yes, it's okay to sit in that.
So powerful. I have learned so much just from you sharing with us right now. There's so many things we could talk about. One thing that comes to mind that stood out to me was God is like the wonderful grand weaver of our lives. And I love that imagery of a grand weaver because oftentimes we're seeing behind the scenes, we're just seeing these threads that kind of look almost messy that we can't make sense of. But all the while, God is weaving a grand tapestry and he has this eternal perspective that we don't have. And so he's doing something with our mess. Can you just talk to us a little bit more about what you practically did in your time of grief? How do you grieve well? We know that we read the Word of God. We know that we cry out to the Lord. So, and I know that you did that. But are there any other practical tips that you can share about what you did to grieve well?
Yes, and I will say, first of all, we can grieve about all sorts of things. It's not always a death. It's not always a loss. It could be about so many other things. So I just want to say that too. It's sometimes when we think of grief, we think someone passed away or we lost someone we loved or a relationship lost or whatever. It doesn't always have to look like that. Grief looks so different.
It does.
I think that's what I learned. It looks so different for every person. So don't undermine your own grief, I would say, first of all. I would say naming grief actually really helped me.
That's good.
Because at first I didn't know what was going on. I felt like I was losing all control. I just felt heavy and sad. And when I first named, this is grief, that alone helped so much. But outside of, like you said, reading the Word, praying, I would say I found a lot of comfort actually through a specific musician. Sometimes certain types of worship music felt overwhelming to me. And so I needed something that brought me to the Lord, but in a calm way. And it was John Foreman's music.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
Any and all of his music. John Foreman has a way of naming things really well, of seeing humanity for what we are, but also bringing us to Jesus. And I just have loved every lyric that he has put out. So I would blast that.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I would blast that, and that would help me immensely. It was like he was making words for me that I couldn't say myself. Yeah. So I would say that. I would say bike riding was another one.
Yeah, so fun.
Probably the people who saw me on those bike rides. I remember I took one bike ride where I was like going around our little lake. And I didn't know I had a flat tire. So humiliating.
Stop.
There are a few hills on that lake, and I was like wheezing and just like,
really?
I'm like, this feels symbolic. I don't know.
Your humanity.
This felt symbolic.
On display.
It was so funny, but I would say bike riding, I would say therapy had helped me a lot in that season. Also like being very careful of who you share these things with, but finding those people that you can open up to, even if it's like one little thing. Or I got plugged into a mom's group, and that was huge. It gave me something to do that week. I sometimes wanted to hide away, but it gave me a place to go where I'm like, I'm going to be met with God's word, with godly community. We can pray for each other. It felt like a very safe place for me. So I would say those are a few really good options for people.
I love that you mentioned that just really quickly, because I think sometimes we forget the power of community, and specifically community of people who also are pursuing God in their lives. Yes. Because sometimes in that time of grief, there's we don't have words. We just need to have the presence of someone else sitting with us to be able to process through what we're feeling. And sometimes we need someone else to stir up our faith in times like that, to remind us of the promises of God in the right timing and with wisdom. Yes. To be able to intercede on our behalf in prayer, to be able to have a different perspective. If you're someone who someone has confided in you, to be able to understand the weight of what you're carrying, that you can ask God, is there anything that you want me to highlight in love and wisdom? And so I love that you're highlighted the importance of community, because sometimes we just forget about that.
Yes, we do. 100%. So I would say those are my few, I could say many more, but those are a few of my practical points. Well, Julia, I'm so excited to hear about what you're going through and how God has brought you through certain things in this season of life, whether it be motherhood or just you personally. And I'm just so curious what God has spoken to you in this season and how he's moved in your heart. Yeah. Would you be willing to share about kind of what you've been going through?
Totally. Yeah, I would love to. Awesome. So I would say for me, the biggest thing God has taught me is that he is the keeper of my life. And he's also the keeper of my daughter's life. Let me explain that. So when I first gave birth to Angelina Marie, I remember feeling this overwhelming sense of responsibility for her life, as I should. Landon felt the same way. We'd go on walks and talk about the weight of that. We would do anything for her, and that's a good thing. But sometimes it can cross over to believing that we're the ones keeping Angelina's life. And that was what God wanted to relieve me of. That is a weight that no one can handle. That's the weight that God is meant to shoulder. And so I have seen God just invite me continually in motherhood when I have been flaring up in my anxiety over the well-being of my daughter. Good thing. Bad when it doesn't lead us to God and we want to hold it. God has been teaching us, Landon and I, that we are to bring that anxiety and that fear and that desire to protect our daughter to him, and to lay it down at his feet, to be faithful with what we can do, but then to ultimately entrust her well-being and her life to God. That has been something he's invited us time and time again in parenting. So most recently, I have felt God has invited me to entrust my life into his ever-watchful care, and to be able to see that God is the keeper of my life too. I have always had health anxiety. It's been something I've struggled with since I was probably 3 years old. I think you remember, I had a literal bead, like a craft bead, in my toe. like in between my toes. I'm not even kidding you guys. And I thought that was the end. I was 3 years old. And so you can see that was kind of like a deep-seated fear of mine. And so recently I've had some health flare-ups we've been trying to get to the bottom of. We have wonderful healthcare here. I'm so grateful for. But it's been interesting because I have never been met with so many question marks and honestly not really great engagement with the doctors. Like, for example, test results will be getting delayed, kind of lost. The urgency of the matter will be pushed, but the results are nowhere to be found. The doctors are trying to get to the bottom of it, but I don't have any other way of explaining it than I have seen God invite me into choosing faith over fear. I've been so aware of the choice that we have to choose faith over fear in the last few weeks. And so what God has been showing me is that he's the keeper of my life. So what I want to say is, as I've been going to all of these health appointments and checkups and trying to get answers, you know what's so interesting, Alexis? Plastered on every entrance door is the passage Psalm 121, which is the passage God's been giving me through this season. And it's this. I'd love to read it. It's a song of ascent, and it says this: I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. And then this is what's plastered on every entrance door. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore.
Wow.
I love how God goes before us to remind us of his truth in the middle of our circumstances. When we are tempted to move about in fear, God calls us to move about in faith. How do we do that though? Because it's easy to talk about that, and it's kind of hard to live out. What he's shown me is to keep my eyes on him by meditating on his majesty. That's what the psalmist does here in the Song of Ascent. He lifts his eyes up to the hills. You know, this psalm was what sojourners would remind themselves of and sing as they were making their pilgrimage to worship in Jerusalem.
Wow.
And so they were very aware of the dangers that came with it. They were very aware of the vulnerability, the unknowns that lied behind every path that they took, and their need for a protector and a guide. And so what I love as he lifts his eyes up to the hills, there's this passage a commentator says that I think just captures it. It says this. It's by Boyce. He says, what he is telling us is that his gaze did not stop when he looked upward to the hills, but that he looked beyond them to God who made the mountains. So it's not enough for us to look at just creation, but to look at who made it. Meditate on the majesty of who God is. So we're called in times of unknown to fix our gaze on God and who he is, his power, his majesty, his authority, and his heart for us. What I feel God has been inviting me in this season is to look beyond just the healthcare system. Don't put your trust, God's saying, in just the healthcare system and well-meaning doctors that God has used so powerfully. I love the healthcare system. But look beyond them to God, who has all authority, power, majesty, and the ability to keep our lives. I love doctors. My faith is not in doctors. My faith is in God. And so that's what God has been inviting me in this season, Alexis.
Wow. That is so
faith
powerful.
over fear. Yeah.
Say that part again, that you love doctors.
I love doctors. Are you kidding me?
Some of my favorite people.
Oh, it's my favorite. Sometimes I'd rather sit in a doctor's office than sit at home with no answers. But God has been showing me, Julia, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the doctor's office or you're at home, your faith is in me. When that happens, your faith is unshakable. God gives us a peace that passes beyond all understanding. You know what I love about this passage that I found out as I was researching is that, so the word for keep in Hebrew is shamar. It's S-H-A-M-A-R, and it means this: to keep, guard, watch over, and attend to carefully. That is God's heart for us. That as we're resting and closing our eyes and entrusting our lives to God, God is not resting. He doesn't tire out of taking care of us. You know, we're humans with limits. God is all powerful, who doesn't tire out. He's watching over our lives when we're not. And so we can rest in his ever watchful care over our lives. God is all powerful, and he is ever watchful over your life and my life.
That is so profound, so powerful, and such a good reminder, I think, for all of us who are moms, all of us who do get anxiety about our own health and our own fears. Thank you for sharing that God is the keeper of our lives.
Like the psalmist, as we journey in our lives through dangerous things, through hard seasons, through the unknowns, we can have this unshakable confidence that God is not sleeping, that God is not tiring out, but that he's keeping us in his love and care perfectly. We can rest in his power.
Wow. Yeah. That is so profound. Thank you for sharing that, Julia. And I know that I love that you're sharing it now because you're still walking through it.
Yes.
You are still living through the unknowns. And I had the privilege of being able to see you walk through this. And there are times where it's like really scary and it's like, wow, okay. And I love in that psalm, where does my help come from?
Yeah.
And I've seen Julia do that so well to recognize I am terrified. At the same time, you go straight to your Bible and you go straight to God's word, and she just reads and washes that over her mind and her heart. And so that is such a great example, Julie, just that alone of you going to God, not running away from it. You are just bringing God your fears and being honest with him.
Thank you.
He is going to honor that and provide the answers in his timing. And you've shared that with me. You've said, I am going to wait on the Lord for the answers.
Which reminds me, Alexis, of the last thing that I wanted to share that God is showing me in the season is to ask him for a holy dissatisfaction for anything less than his presence when we're pursuing him. So like whether it's like going to church or sitting down to spend time with him, like seeking him and asking him for his presence. That's something God loves to answer. And so when we get in his presence, he gives us this peace that surpasses understanding. We may not have the answers from the doctors. Our relationships may not be in the place that we want them to be. The world around us may be spinning into chaos. But when we enter into the presence of God, we have everything we need. God gives us his eternal perspective to be able to continue walking on the journey he set out before us. We get to enjoy the presence of God, and actually, keyword, enjoy our journey when we get in his presence. And so that's what he's been showing me in this season. And it reminds me of Psalm 73 when the psalmist says this, starting in verse 16. But when I thought how to understand this, it seemed to me a wearisome task until I went into the sanctuary of God. Then I discerned their end. God gave him an eternal perspective when he entered into his presence. And that's God's desire for you and me.
That is so good. Mic drop right there at Psalm 73.
So funny.
That is so good. Thank you, Julia, for sharing all that God has been putting on your heart and currently walking through. And we'll be praying for continued answers.
Thank you.
And continued peace as you journey through this mystery, it feels like. But it's not a mystery to God. Which is I'm so grateful for that. Well, we just wanted to say thank you so much. We're excited about the future of Enlasombra, and we have not given up. I know we haven't posted in a few months. There's been some stuff going on, as you know, but we are still so passionate, if not more passionate, about the vision God has placed on our hearts for this. And we wanted to share that we definitely will be continuing these video podcasts. I'd love to start. Content. I would love to start streaming this on Spotify and Apple Music. I'm going to have to ask my husband for that. Help me out with that. But you and I both had this inclination that we felt was from God, but again, we talked to each other about, and we're like, I think this might be from the Lord. So you're going to have to be patient with us because it will be some trial and error.
Yeah.
But we would love to start posting some more short form videos on social media, whether that be our TikTok or our Instagram. Not super comfortable with that.
No, not at all.
It doesn't come natural. Doesn't come natural, I gotta say. This is much more comfortable for me, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try, and we're gonna be prayerful about it. And we'd love to hear your input. We were talking about how we'd love to hear your input. Like, what would you guys like to hear from us in those short form videos? Maybe what would you like to see from that?
Yeah.
We are totally open. We're being, like I said, prayerful.
Yeah.
And we're discussing it, brainstorming as we speak.
Exactly. Yeah. Our hope is that we can be more consistent with our content creation and really follow like the promptings of God. Yeah. Because what we connected on and agreed on is like, hey, when we feel God is speaking to us about something, like, why don't we just like record it and like capture what he's teaching us and post it in a short form video. And so we'd love your prayers.
Feels very vulnerable.
Yes.
But I love it. I'm all for that. So we're just pumped to be back. 2026, Enlasombra.
We're back, baby.
We're back, baby.
Yeah. Can I close in prayer?
Yes, sure.
Dear God, thank you so much for just this time today, God, where we could encourage one another. And we just love you, Lord. Thank you that you teach us how to grieve. You grieve with us. You lead us through our seasons, Lord. And your heart is to transform us through it, God, that you never forsake us. God, thank you, Lord, that you are our keeper and that we can rest in your power and your ever watchful care, God. I pray that today, God, those listening and Alexis and I would walk around and move about in boldness, God, to seek out your presence in our day-to-day, God. Show us how we can follow after you, God, in a way that's pleasing, God. And we just worship you and we love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, we'll see you next time. We
Bye,
love you
guys.
See ya. Bye.